Hey, fifth grade, it's Mrs. Utsey, and I am here today to read to you our final two chapters from the Watsons Go to Birmingham. We will finish the book today, and when we finish it, I hope you guys enjoy it. You've been enjoying it. There's also a movie too. So the movie is really good. I've actually seen it. So maybe after you finish listening to the book with me, maybe you may figure out how you can check out the movie. Okay. So I'm going to read you the last two chapters, chapter 14 and 15, and we will start with 14. Every bird and bug in Birmingham stops and wonders. I knew it was Sunday because I heard Joetta getting ready for Sunday school. The neighbors came and got her as soon as I got out of bed. I was standing in the doorway of the bedroom doing my morning scratches when she walked by. Hi, Kenny. See you later. Bye, Joey. She had on a fluffy white skirt, a regular blouse, and the little white gloves Grandma Sands had made her. I don't know why, but I said, Joey? She stopped. Huh? I couldn't think why I called her name, so I just kind of threw out, You look real pretty. She smiled and thanked me. She did look kind of pretty too. She had on a lacy white hat and little lacy white socks and her shiny, shiny black shoes. The people that came to get her saw me, and one of them said, How come you ain't coming to Sunday school, young man? I smiled and said, I forgot to get up in time. Everybody in the house knew that was a lie, but no one seemed to care. I wonder if there was something wrong with me, because it was real easy for me to lie. Even to a pack of religious people on Sunday morning. I had my cereal and went out into the backyard. It was too hot even this early in the morning, so I walked over to the giant magnolia tree and rested in the coolness of its shade. All of the energy was gone from me already. It had been a few days since I almost got snatched by the wool poo, and I still felt weak and tired all the time. Byron had made me promise not to tell anyone what happened, so everybody thought I was just being lazy. I heard people waking up and moving around inside, but I was feeling too tired to go and speak to anyone. Mama stuck her head out of the back door and got ready to yell for me, but when she saw me plop down at the foot of the tree, she smiled. Well, Kenneth, I thought you wandered off. How are you this morning? It was too hot to sleep. Think you can last one more week? Well, isn't this better than winter up north? Quit teasing, Mama. You know it isn't. I wish I was back in our igloo in Flint. She laughed and the screen door closed behind her. I started going to sleep under the tree and thought I was dreaming when the noise came. I felt it more than heard it. The giant old magnolia tree shook one time like something had given it a hard snatch by the roots. Then there was a sound like a far-off thunderstorm coming, except it only thundered one long time. It seemed like every animal and bird and bug in Birmingham stopped making noise for about 2 seconds. It seemed like everything that was alive stopped whatever it was doing and was wondering the same thing. What was that noise? Doors opened in the neighborhood and people came out and looked up in the sky, but there was nothing there, not one cloud. Nothing to give a clue to what the big hollow sound was. Nothing but bright, hot, stupid Alabama sun. Dad came to the back door in pajama pants and a t-shirt. What was that? Was that back here? I shook my head. He looked like a bell went off in his head and said, Oh Lord, where's Byron? Byron poked his head out the door, still in his underpants and still doing his morning scratches. What? He said. I didn't do nothing. I was asleep. What was that bang? Dad kept looking toward the sky and said, must have been a sonic boom. He closed the screen door. If this had happened in Flint, I would have investigated to find out what it was. But the horrible sun had sucked all the curiosity out of me. I leaned back against the tree and closed my eyes. I don't know if I got to sleep or not, but Mama's scream made me jump nearly to the magnolia's top branch. I'd never heard Mama's voice sound so bad. I felt like I did that time. I stuck a bobby pin in a wall socket. I ran to the door and into the house, and By almost knocked me over running back into the bedroom. What's wrong with Mama? I asked. I looked in the living room, but Mama and Dad weren't there. I ran back to the bedroom where Byron was trying to wrestle into a pair of pants. By, what happened? He got the pants up and said, A guy just came by and said somebody dropped a bomb on Joey's church. and he was gone, exploding out of the front door, trying to zip up his pants at the same time he ran off the porch. Some of the time, I wondered if something really was wrong with me. Byron had just told me that someone had dropped a bomb on Joey's church, hadn't he? If that was true, why did I just stand there looking stupid? If that was true, why was I only thinking about how much trouble By was going to be in when they heard how loud he slammed the screen door, and asking myself why hadn't he put on his shoes? His socks wouldn't last 2 minutes on the Alabama mud. I ran out onto the porch and into the street. It looked like someone had set off a people magnet. It seemed like everyone in Birmingham was running down the street. It looked like a river of scared brown bodies was being jerked in the same direction that By had gone, so I followed. I guess my ears couldn't take it, so they just stopped listening. I could see people everywhere making their mouths go like they were screaming and pointing and yelling, but I didn't hear anything. I saw Mama and Dad and Byron holding on to each other. All three of them looking like they were crazy and trying to keep each other away from the pile of rocks that used to be the front of the church. Mama was so upset that she even forgot to cover the space in her front teeth. I couldn't hear her, but I bet $1 million she was shouting, "Why?" over and over like a real nut. It looked like Dad's mouth was yelling, "Joetta!" I was kind of surprised no adult stopped me from walking right up to the church. I got right next to where the door used to be when the guy came out with the little girl in his arms. He had on the same thing Dad did, a t-shirt and pajama pants, but it looked like he'd been painting with red paint. The little girl had on a blue dress and little blue frilly socks and black shiny shoes. I looked into the church and saw smoke and dust flying around like a tornado was in there. One light from the ceiling was still hanging down by a wire, flickering and swinging back and forth, and every once in a while I could see some stuff inside. I could see a couple of grown-ups moving around looking lost, trying to pick things up, then the smoke would cover them, and then the bulb would flicker out and they'd disappear. I could see Bibles and coloring books thrown all over the place. Then they'd get covered by the smoke. I could see a shiny black shoe lying halfway underneath some concrete. Then it got covered with smoke. And then the light bulb flickered out again. I bent down to pull the shoe from under the concrete and tugged and pulled at it, but it felt like something was pulling it back. All the hair on my head jumped up to attention. The light flickered back on and the smoke cleared, and I could see that hanging on to the other end of the shoe was a giant gray hand with cold, hard, square fingers. Uh-oh. I looked up and saw a familiar guy, and before he got covered with smoke, he looked at me, and I saw he had big square shoulders and nothing where his face should have been. The wool poo. Oh man. I gave the shoe one more hard tug, and it popped loose from a frilly white sock. I got real scared. I walked as slowly and as quietly as I could out of the church. Maybe if I moved quietly, he wouldn't come for me. Maybe if I walked and didn't look back, he'd leave me alone. I walked past where the adults were still screaming and pointing. I walked past where that guy had set the little girl in blue, right next to where someone else had set a little girl in red. I knew if Joey sat down next to those two, their dresses would have made the red, white, and blue of the American flag. Grown-ups were kneeling down by them, and the adults' hands fluttered down toward the little girls. Then, before they touched anything, fluttered back up, over and over. Their hands looked like a little flock of brown sparrows that were too nervous to land. I walked past people lying around in little balls on the grass, crying and twitching. I walked past people squeezing each other and shaking. I walked past people hugging trees and telephone poles, looking like they were afraid they might fly off the earth if they let go. I walked past 1 million people with their mouths wide open and no sounds coming out. I didn't look behind me and walked back as quickly as I could to Grandma Sand's house. I felt like I floated up the front stairs. Then I made sure the screen door didn't slam and took my shoes off and went in and sat on my bed. I hadn't remembered to make it that morning, so I got up and tucked the sheets in and fluffed up the pillow like Mama does. I sat back on the bed and looked down at my hands. They were acting like nervous little sparrows too, so I squeezed them between my knees. I reached in my pocket and took out the shiny shoe. When me and the wool pool were trying to grab it away from each other, the back part had gotten ripped. Man, the shoe was ripped like it was made out of paper. The picture of the little white boy with the girl's hairdo and the dog was torn right in half. All that was left was the dog, smiling at me like he'd just eaten a cat. I tried to remember if I'd been mean to Joey this morning. I guess I hadn't. I never did tell her how she helped Byron save my life in the water. I guess I should have. Where'd you go? How'd you get back here so fast? How come you changed your clothes? My ears had decided to work again. I looked up toward the door but stopped looking when I saw the white, frilly socks standing on the wooden floor in the front of my door. I guess the wool pool was taking Joey around for her last visits. I was afraid to look up. I was afraid to look at her face. I knew I'd see the wool pool's rope tied around her waist. Hi, Joey, was all I can think of saying. Where's Mama and Daddy? Oh, you'll probably get to see them next. He takes you around to see your family before you go. She sat beside me on the bed. I still wouldn't look at her. I dropped a shoe and used my knees to stop the sparrows from fluttering around. Oh man, this was very scary. I'd seen the two little girls on the grass in the red and blue dresses, and I didn't want to see my little sister that way too. What's wrong with you, Kenny? How come you're looking so funny? I guess I should have told you thanks for saving my life, huh? Is it too late to tell you that? Joey didn't say anything for a second, then got up off the bed. Why are you acting so crazy? Where Mama and Daddy? What's that you dropped? What are you trying to hide? She picked her shoe up from where I dropped it. Ooh, Kenny, whose shoe is this? What did you do to it? It's yours, Joey. I got it from the wool pool. You better quit trying to scare me, Kenny, or I'm going to tell Mama. This better not be my shoe, or you're in big trouble, Buster. Joey walked out of the room, but I still couldn't look at her. The wool pool was stopping her away. Joey! After a second, she came back into my bedroom. What? She was sounding real mean. I didn't look up. I kept looking at my hands. I love you. Whop! The shiny, ripped black shoe hit me right in the chest. Whose shoe is that? I finally looked up to see what Joey looked like. There were no ropes around her waist, and nobody with square toes was hanging around. But what really surprised me was that Joey had both her shiny black shoes in her hands. She'd taken them off at the front door. Kenneth Bernard Watson, you better tell me what's going on or I'm going to really go tell. I'm not playing with you. Joey was imitating Mama so much that she didn't say Bernard. She said Bernard. Joey, didn't you go to Sunday school? You know I did. Don't you know what happened? Joey sat back down next to me. Kenny, I'm not playing with you. Why are you acting so weird? Her voice was starting to get all choky. Why aren't you still in that church? It was hot in there that I went and stood on the porch and saw you. Saw me? Where? Kenny, you better stop this nonsense. You know you waved at me from across the street. You know when I tried to come to you, you kept laughing and running in front of me. You know I chased you all the way down that street. Joey got a funny look on her face, but you had on different clothes. Joey's voice was getting higher with everything she said, and when she was done, she sounded real crazy. Joey, that's it. You're through this time, mister. You don't know when to stop teasing, do you? That's it. I'm telling on you. Joey stood up and ran up the stairs screaming, Mama! 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 I could hear Grandma Sands moving around upstairs, and she finally clomped down the steps and came into my room. Joey was hanging on her arm, still screaming. Grandma Sands must have real thin blood because even though it was hot as a furnace in the house, she had on a big, thick nightgown and a big, thick robe. The smell of baby powder came into the room a second after she did. What on earth are y'all doing raising this much cane this early in the morning? Joanna, honey, stop that noise. Kenny, what's wrong with this child? Joanna finally said, He's trying to scare me, Grandma Sands. He won't tell me where Mama is. Joey kept boo-hooing like a real idiot. Kenneth, where's Walona and Daniel? Grandma Sands pulled Joey off of her leg and held her shoulders, then gave her a little shake. Joetta, you stop that noise. Grandma Sands can't handle that much noise this early, sweetheart. A bell went off in my head. The wool poo had missed Joey. He wasn't having much luck at all with any of the weird Watsons. I had to go to the church to get Mama and Dad and Byron. Grandma Sands said, What are all them sirens doing? Lord, has the whole world gone mad today? Where's your Mama and Daddy? The last thing I heard was Grandma Sands yelling, Boy, if you slam that door like that again. I looked down and saw my socks flying over the Alabama mud. Chapter 15, The World Famous Watson Pet Hospital. Mama and Dad didn't know I was in the living room. We'd been back in Flint for a couple of weeks and they were still talking about what had happened, but never around us. The only thing I knew for sure was that the bomb wasn't dropped on the church by an airplane. Grandma Sands called a couple of times and told them that the police thought two white men drove by in a car and threw it in during services, or that they'd already hidden it in the church with the clock set to go off during Sunday school. However, it got in the church, it had killed 4 little girls, blinded a couple more, and sent a bunch of other people to the hospital. I couldn't stop wondering if those 2 little girls I saw on the lawn were okay. From my secret hiding place in the living room, I could listen to Mama and Dad, and it seemed like they spent most of the time trying to figure out how they could explain to us what happened. Some of the time they were mad, some of the time they were calm, and some of the time they just sat on the couch and cried. Even though none of us kids got hurt by the bomb, they acted like they were worried about us. They weren't too worried about Byron and weren't worried about Joey at all. We'd all agreed not to tell her what happened at that church and had left Birmingham that night before she had a chance to find out anything. I was kind of surprised because the way Mom and Dad were talking, I could tell they were most worried about me. They came out of the kitchen and sat on the couch. I knew they were talking about me again. Mama said, "He's been disappearing, Daniel. Hours go by and I don't know where he is." "What's he say when you ask him where's he been?" "He tells me he hasn't been anywhere. He says I shouldn't worry. It's so strange. I call him and he's nowhere to be found, but a few minutes later he just pops up." "Doesn't Byron know where he goes?" "He says he doesn't. He is being awfully quiet. Something's wrong. I wonder if Mr. Roberts' friend was right. I wonder if he really did see Kenny in that church afterward. Lord, who knows what that poor baby saw?" "Willona, he says he only left Grandma Sands to tell us Joey was okay. I don't know what we can do." "But Joey swears it was him. She followed away from there. And you know that child would just as soon die as lie. I just wish I knew where he goes and why." I had been disappearing, but Mama really didn't need to worry. I wasn't going anywhere. I'd just been going behind the couch for a little while every day. There was a big enough space between the couch and the wall for me to squeeze in back there and just sit in a little ball. It was quiet and dark and still back there. Byron called this little area the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital, and he made me and Joey believe that magic powers, genies, and angels all lived back there. I was waiting to see if that was true. He started calling it the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital after we noticed that if something bad happened to one of our dogs or cats, they just automatically knew they had to crawl in that space and wait to see if they were going to get better. Since Mama and Dad had told us that animal doctors cost about $1,000 each time you went to them, our pets knew they wouldn't be seeing any veterinarians and that the most help they could get was to crawl behind the couch and see if they could make a deal with the magic powers there. If one of our dogs got hit by a car and could walk away, or if one of them chewed through an electric wire, or ran away from home and showed up a couple of weeks later half-starved, or something they'd head right for the back of the couch. If one of our cats got beat up by a dog or spent too much time throwing up disgusting pieces of little things or got thrown out of a tree or something, they zipped right straight into the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital. Those times when one of our pets got hurt, I'd wake up the next morning and run out to the living room and climb up on the back of the couch and look over to see how it was doing. If I looked down there and the dog looked up at me with sad eyes and banged his tail a couple of times before he put his head back down, or if the cat looked up and hissed at me, I knew they'd made it through their first night and that the magic powers were probably going to keep them alive. If when I looked behind the couch, I just saw a crumpled up yellow towel where the dog or cat had been laying, I knew Mama would soon be telling us that Sooty or Fluffy or Scamp or Lady or whoever the patient was hadn't done too well and would be spending the rest of the time running around happily in cat or dog heaven. But I knew better. I knew this was some made-up garbage. I knew the magic powers had decided not to keep the animal alive, and Dad had got rid of the body before we woke up. It was kind of strange, because whatever it was that was behind the couch seemed to work best on dogs. Whenever dogs survived the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital, they always came out a lot friendlier. When they came out, they might walk kind of funny, but it seemed like they all wanted to do was lick you and wobble around after you wherever you went. Blackie had been in the hospital twice, and he got along great with everyone now, even strangers, even cats. But cats were different. If one of them survived the hospital, it'll come out and give you a dirty look and be a lot meaner than it was before it went in. Most of the time, after a cat visited the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital, it wouldn't let anyone but Joetta touch it. But that was okay, because most of the time nobody but Joetta wanted to touch those stupid cats anyway. I was waiting to see if the magic powers were going to treat me like a dog or a cat, or if when Byron or Joey woke up one morning, they'd find a crumpled up yellow towel where I was supposed to be. The only trouble was that the magic powers seemed to be taking a real long time to decide what was going to happen to me. Maybe I wasn't spending enough time back there. Mama started trying to force me to do more things with Rufus, but it seemed like he'd changed while we were gone and wasn't as much fun to be with. Him and Cody got real happy when I gave them my pillowcase full of dinosaurs. I was getting too mature to play with toys anymore. Mom even forced Byron to take me with him when him and Bubhead played basketball. But you didn't have to be Albert Einstein to figure out that the only reason the big guys were playing with me was because Byron had threatened them when my back was turned. But what really bugged me the most was when Mama tried to force me to do things with Joetta. I never noticed what a little crybaby and snitch she was. Every time you turned around, she was threatening to go tell on you, or was whining about something, or being just a plain old pest. After a while, to get even with her, I wouldn't even look at her. I started hating her guts. I only wanted to come out of the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital to eat and go to the bathroom. I even started going into it after Mama and Dad went to bed at night. I started sleeping there. I spent so much time there that Byron finally figured out where I was going. I looked up one day and there was his eyeball staring down at me. Hi, Bye. Hey, Kenny. So this is where you've been hanging out, huh? Are you going to tell me? Man, when you ever known me to be a snitch? Never. You're right. He just kept looking at me. You want me to get you something to eat? Mm-mm. Byron walked over and turned on the TV, then stuck his head back behind the couch. You want to watch some TV? Mm-mm. His head disappeared and he watched Batfink. When the show was over, his head came back. I'm going to play some ball. You want to come? I'll come in a minute. Byron looked like he didn't believe me. Cool. Later. Even though Byron had a reputation for not being a snitch, I got the feeling he told on me. When they sat on the couch, Mama and Dad quit talking like nobody was around and got real careful about what they said. They started saying stuff about how proud they were of me and what a nice kid I was and junk like that. But it sounded like they'd been practicing what to say. I turned my ears off when they came around. Mama also quit bugging me to find out where I was going. I knew they busted me for sure when Joetta's snitchety little face started peeking around the corner every morning. Byron even started sleeping on the couch at night. Right after Mama and Dad went to bed and I crawled back there, he'd come out with his pillow and blanket. Night, Kenny. Night, Bye. Every morning I'd wake up and Byron would be looking down at me. He'd wake me up by touching the top of my head. Hey, Kenny. Hi, Bye. You already eat? Mm-mm. Come on. I crawled out from behind the couch and let Byron pour out my cereal and milk. After I finished, I said, thanks. Wait, ain't you going to change out of them PJs? Oh, yeah. I changed and went back to the couch. Bye was sitting there. Hold on, Kenny. Watch some cartoons with me. Okay, I will in a minute. Byron grabbed my arm before I could crawl behind the couch. Nah, man. At least stay for Felix the cat. Okay. I sat next to him on the couch. When Felix was over, I thought Bye would force me to watch more cartoons, but he didn't. He let me crawl back behind the couch. Check you out later, Kenny. See you, Bye. As much time as Byron started spending on the couch, I thought I was going to have to make room for a bed for him in the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital. Every time I look up, he'd be there, and we'd have to go eat or watch some TV or go to Mitchell's for something or change clothes or stuff like that. One day, his head popped over the back of the couch and he said, Come on, I got something to show you. I knew I had to go. If I wouldn't, he'd pull me out by my legs. I followed Byron upstairs into the bathroom and he stood in front of the sink and looked in the mirror. He scrunched his face up so he could see the bottom of his chin. Then he took his thumb and finger and felt around there. He smiled and real slow pulled the thumb and finger away. Check this out, Jack. I looked real close and there was a long, skinny black hair growing out of Byron's chin. He held it like it was worth $1 million. And there's another one coming out too. This made me wonder about my mustache. I hadn't looked at it for a long time and thought it might be pretty long by now. I climbed up on the toilet and leaned over the sink to see. Maybe it was because I hadn't looked in the mirror for a long time. But as soon as I saw myself with my lazy eyes still being lazy and my face looking so sad, I slammed my eyes shut and started crying. I even fell off the toilet. Byron caught me and set me on the floor. He knew this was some real embarrassing stuff, so he closed the bathroom door and sat on the tub and waited for me to stop. But I couldn't. I felt like someone had pulled a plug on me, and every tear inside was rushing out. If there was a forest fire somewhere, all Smokey the Bear would have to do was hold me upside down over it, and the fire wouldn't have a chance. Byron sat next to me on the floor and put my head in his lap. I still couldn't stop, even though I was soaking him worse than Joey ever drooled on anybody. It was real embarrassing. I'm sorry, By. Shut up and cry if you want. That sounded like a real good idea, so I did. I think I cried for about 200 hours. Why would they do that, Byron? I was sounding real bad. My throat was jumping around in my neck and making a bunch of weird noises. Why would they hurt some little kids like that? He waited a long time before he answered. I don't know, Kenny. Mom and Dad say they can't help themselves. They did it because they're sick. But I don't know. I ain't never heard of no sickness that makes you kill little girls just because you don't want them in your school. I don't think they're sick at all. I think they just let hate eat them up and turn them into monsters. But it's okay now. They can't hurt you here. It's all right. My Adam's apple felt like it was going to blow a hole in my throat, but I said, I did go to the church, Bye. I saw what happened. I saw two of those little girls. I thought Joey got killed too. We all did, Kenny. There ain't nothing wrong with being sad or scared about that. I'm sad about it too. I got real scared too. But, man, no one's going to hurt you here, Kenny. But, I tried to think how to say it. I'm not scared. I'm just real ashamed of myself. That was it. That was the main thing I'd finally found out from being a patient in the world-famous Watson Pet Hospital. Kenny, you ain't got nothing to be ashamed of. But you don't know what happened, Byron. You don't know what I did. Man, everybody cried. Mama was crying. Dad was scared. He cried too. That was some real scary stuff. That was some real sad stuff. He still didn't understand. Byron, I left Joey. I thought the wool pool had her, and instead of fighting him like you did, I left. I ran from him. How come you were brave enough to fight him, and all I could do was run? All I could save was a shoe, a stupid ripped up shoe. I couldn't stop crying. Oh man, you ain't gonna start talking that wool pool mess again, are you? I told you the wool pool was some made up garbage. I told you the only one I was fighting in the water was your stupid little behind. Was no one in the water but you and me. That's what you think, By, but I know better. I've seen him twice. I couldn't believe Byron was still talking to me. Most of the time, if I started sounding weepy and whiny, he'd take right off. Look, Kenny, if you don't quit talking that wool pool nonsense, I'm going to leave you in here to cry all alone. There ain't no such thing as a wool pool. Then he stopped sounding so mean and said, and there ain't no such things as magic powers neither. I was surprised he brought up the magic powers. You think I don't know why you've been hanging out behind the couch? He grabbed my ear and twisted my head until I had to look at him. You think I don't know you waiting for some stupid magic powers or genies or an angel to make you feel better? Dig this. You can wait behind that couch for the rest of your life and ain't no magic powers gonna come back there and make you feel nothing. Only thing that's gonna happen back there is that you gonna stunt your growth from being a little ball all day. He pulled my ear to make sure I was listening. If you've been spending so much time thinking about how you didn't save Joey, why don't you stop and think about why she wasn't in that church? Why don't you spend some time thinking about who it was that led her away? But it wasn't me. Byron, I never... Man, shut up and listen. He twisted my ear to make me be quiet. Ain't no genies in this world, Kenny. Ain't no magic powers. There ain't even no angels. Not in this neighborhood anyway. Man, I just don't get you. You supposed to be the one who's so smart. How can you believe in something as stupid as magic powers and genies living behind a couch, but not believe it was a part of you that took Joey out of that church? Byron started throwing me curveballs. If you hadn't been born, who would have took her away from that bomb? No one. If you hadn't have been born and she walked out of that hot church and saw some stranger waving her from across the street, you think she would have followed him? Hell no. She'd have got right back in there. If you hadn't been born, who would have gone in that church to see if Joey really was in there? Me and Mama and Dad was all too scared. You was the only one brave enough to go in there. Every time he made a point, he twisted my ear to make me understand better. But Byron, it's just not fair. What about those other kids? You know, they had brothers and sisters and mamas and daddies who loved them just as much as we love Joey. How come no one came and got them out of that church? How is it fair? How come their relatives couldn't come and warn them? Byron let go of my ear and thought for a second. Kenny, things ain't ever going to be fair. How's it fair that two grown men could hate Negroes so much that they kill some kids just to stop them from going to school? How's it fair that even though the cops down there might know who did it, nothing will probably ever happen to those men? It ain't. But you just got to understand that that's the way it is and keep on stepping. Byron let me sniff and wipe my hand across my eyes before he slid my head back onto the linoleum and stood up. He went over and got some toilet paper and wiped my tears and my boogers off his leg. Then he let a couple of sheets of toilet paper float down the land on me and said, "Blow your nose. Wash your face. You've been behind that couch long enough. It's about time you cut this mess out. Mama and Dad beginning to think your little behind is seriously on the blink. Today is the day you check out of the world-famous Watson Hospital. Don't let me catch you back there no more. You ain't got no cause to be ashamed or scared of nothing. You smart enough to figure this one out yourself. Besides, you getting the word from the top wolf himself. You gonna be alright, baby bruh. I swear for God." He walked over to the mirror and scrunched his face up so he could look at his chin again. Then used his thumb and finger to pull that long, skinny black hair out a little bit. He let the hair go, smiled at himself, and ran his hands along his head like he was brushing his hair. "Shoot," he said, "I sure wish someone would come clean and tell me who my real folks was. There just ain't no way in hell two people as ugly as your mama and daddy could ever have a child as fine as me." He blew himself a kiss in the mirror, then left the bathroom. Before he shut the door, I could see that Mama and Dad and Joey were standing there in a little knot, trying not to let me know they were eavesdropping. Mama whispered, "What's going on, Bi? Why was Kenny crying like that? Is he okay?" He told her, "Kenny's gonna be cool. He's related to me, ain't he?" "Byron Watson, how many times am I going to tell you about saying ain't?" Some of the time it was hard to figure Byron out. He was very right about some things, and he was very wrong about some things. He was very wrong when he said the wool pool was something he made up. If he'd ever had his ankles grabbed by it, he'd know it was real. If he'd seen the way it was crouched down, crawling around in the dust and the smoke of the church in Birmingham, he'd know it wasn't some made-up garbage. If he'd ever seen those horrible toes, he'd know the wool pool was as serious as a heart attack. He was also very wrong about there not being anything like magic powers or genies or angels. Maybe those weren't the things that could make a run-over dog walk without wobbling, but they were out there. Maybe they were in the way your father smiled at you even after you'd messed something up real bad. Maybe they were in the way you understood that your mother wasn't trying to make you the laughing stock of the whole school when she'd call you over in front of a bunch of your friends and you spit on her finger to wipe the sleep out of your eyes. Maybe it was magic powers to let you know she was just being mama. Maybe they were the reason that you really didn't care when the kids would say, "Yuck, you let your mama slob on you?" And you'd have to say, "Shut up, that's my mama, we got the same germs." Maybe there were genies in the way your sister would throw a stupid tea party for you and you had fun, even though it was kind of embarrassing to sit at a little table and sip water out of plastic teacups. Maybe there were magic powers hiding in the way your older brother made all the worst thugs in the neighborhood play basketball with you, even though you double dribbled every time they threw you the ball. And I'm sure there was an angel in Birmingham when Grandma Sands wrapped her little arms around all the weird Watsons and said, "My family, my beautiful, beautiful family." I climbed up on the toilet and leaned over the sink to take a look. I smiled. Byron was very right about some things too. He was very right when he said I was too smart to believe magic powers lived behind a couch. He also knew what he was talking about when he said, I was going to be all right. Joetta banged on the bathroom door. Kenny, Byron said you're feeling much better now. If that's right, come on out. I gotta go to the bathroom real bad. She said real, like it had a million letters in it. Some of the time, I wonder if there was really something wrong with me. A few minutes ago, I'd been crying on the floor like a kindergarten baby, and now I was looking in the mirror laughing. I blew my nose and splashed a little water on my face because I wanted to go out. Besides, I had to think of a way to get at least half of my dinosaurs back from Rufus. Come on in, Joey. And that is the end of The Watsons Go to Birmingham. I truly hope you guys enjoyed this book. I enjoyed reading it to you daily, and I know that Mr. McDonald is going to be up with his book next. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I know he will be reading to you guys starting Monday. So check out his book every day. Again, you can go back and check out the Losers Club, Mrs. Wheeler's Read Aloud she's been doing. All of these are put in the Facebook groups for you. So I'm glad you guys tuned in. I miss you guys greatly, and I will see you later.